Give us like 30 seconds. You can tell everybody about it.
I'm gonna.
So yeah, I got the names of 4 different shader types that you can use, and just because one looks best on my computer doesn't mean it'll look best on yours. In other words, I think yours will handle much more.
Like more.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says we're live. We're live.
All right. So I didn't know. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so 2016.
I don't think there's anybody here yet. Oh, Warren's here. Good morning, Warren.
Well, that's good. Well, I was like people do, not a lot, but people do watch like later. So I was like,
What?
hey, do you want to just like not say anything for 5 minutes?
I don't know. I'm sharing back to.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I will save this. So just for those of you that are here already, I've got a conspiracy theory that I actually like, right? Because of course, most of you already know that I like to beat up conspiracy theories in dark alleys, as a rule.
It's true. It's true.
Anyways. Yep.
I'm sharing back, so.
Yeah, no, I need to do that as well. I was actually just getting to the point where I actually find us on the YouTubes. There we are. Aches and pains.
Yep.
That's us.
So you're sitting up or you're standing up?
I'm standing. Yeah, I'm standing. I was that recliner thing I tried for First Coffee was all right, but ultimately started to not work as well. So
I got you.
I had to change tactics. Good morning.
All right, so yeah, we got some folks in. Jareen's here, Ginny's here, Fred's here, Sue's here, Donna's here. Fred, I started listening to your latest edition. I got about 10 minutes in. I haven't had time to finish it because I got distracted by bright, shiny Minecraft things. So I'll get back on it here in a bit. But do tell, Corey, what's your conspiracy theory that you like?
So the conspiracy theory that I like, and I didn't actually, I thought that this was just like completely conjecture, but it's not.
You're a little hot. Your mic's a little bit hot.
All right, hold on. I can turn.
They really should have put the volume controls on the front of the microphone.
Yeah, well, the
volume
is, but the gain isn't.
Yeah, but that's the gain. That's what I meant. Yes.
Yeah, I had the gain up for when I was doing music.
Much better.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I thought this was completely conjecture, and I was still in. But it turns out that it is not entirely conjecture. So you remember the halcyon days of 2016 when things just got fucking really terrible?
Yeah.
Okay, so April 29th, 2016, Weasel apparently shuts down world's most powerful particle collider.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So a Weasel shut down the largest, most powerful particle collider on the face of the Earth. And they're like doing, subatomic particle research. There, is a non-zero probability that they could create a black hole. Although it would be to call it microscopic would be an insult to microscopes. These are inconsequential things. However, we don't understand time yet. So the suggestion is this like emergency stoppage of the particle collider actually knocked us into the worst fucking timeline possible. Yes. And I think that's provably true. So
I think you may be right. I actually found a pretty cool link here. I want to screen share it because it's adorable. Here we go. Yeah, this is actually a thing that Corey's onto, and it is called the Weasel timeline. There you go. There's the culprit.
That's awesome. Oh no!
Shoot into one of the electrical transformers of the LHC, causing a short circuit and shutting the machine down.
Aww.
What the fake news won't tell you is the Weasel incident caused a rift through the multiverse. The walls that separate each reality haven't been right ever since.
Yeah,
I call it the Weasel timeline.
Yeah, that just makes all the sense in the world.
It checks out. It totally checks out
for me.
Yeah, I did my research.
I did my research.
I watched at least 12 YouTube videos. About this.
Oh man, I was listening to I'm not a huge fan of Sam Harris. Like I'm a fan of some of his work, but listening to him argue sometimes makes me like wanna like.
Who is this?
Sam Harris.
Oh yeah.
He's a very whiny, entitled, hyper wealthy intellectual, and sometimes that shows. However, when he is on the Tim Ferriss show talking exclusively about hallucinogenics,
Right.
it is a much different story, which is fun. That was one of the latest Tim Ferriss episodes that's out. But it was when Tim Ferriss asked him if there's anything that he has changed his mind about, kind of that age old but really really fantastic interview question. Sort of throws that at Sam Harris, and Sam Harris said, watching, he said, he's been trying to have conversations with people that he considers smart about the details and the facts and the science around the coronavirus. And he said the degree to which they are incapable of catching up to reality, or refusing, or whichever one it is why he's no longer even remotely interested, and I agree with him, in trying to use persuasion to convince people that we need to do something about global warming, because it will never fucking work. Like if you can't be shown while 100,000 Americans are dying that there's very, very specific science and specific things that we can do to ameliorate that, and a whole subset, the same subset of the country, is completely and totally oblivious, and they clearly plan on staying that way, that there's absolutely no fucking point trying to convince anyone from a legislative point of view or anything else that we can do anything about global warming. The only thing you're going to be able to do is design products that dummies want, right? So like even people that don't believe in climate change really love Teslas, and they're going to love it even more with the new battery technology that's coming out that is creating parity and stuff like that. So it really is like I've seen some people talk about elites or whatever, but I think it's a terrible framing. But like the smart people are going to have to design our way out of this,
Right?
Because finding the capacity to convince enough people, to convince enough legislators to do it, is just patently not going to work. Like if you can't understand this existential threat, one with a longer arc timeline, people just aren't going to get until the seas have raised up like 200 yards.
All right, I have some important questions and comments on this.
Okay.
Well, I think they're important because I'm self-important. So, but
Just
we have
inherently important.
we have an example historically, and I would call it a recent historical example of the opposite of that being true. People could not see skin cancer rates increasing when we were developing a hole in the ozone because of all the freon and other damage we were doing to the ozone layer, and yet we fixed it, right? And some of what had to happen to fix that was regulatory change that was done legislatively, like getting freon out of air conditioning systems, changing hairspray, getting away from aerosols. We had to change those things legislatively to make them happen in the United States, and we did. So what's changed since the mid 1980s?
Yeah. Is it not glaringly obvious? Fox News. Right? Like and the internet, right? Right, Fox News times the internet. Like you now have, and this is why I'm like, ruthlessly blocking anyone spreading bad information, because the real problem is that people that are spreading bad information are finding each other and creating things like the anti-vaxxer movement. That wasn't a thing in the 80s, right? You had to work your ass off to find another dummy in the 80s, right? Like,
I don't know. I grew up here.
Well, you get what I mean, right? Like you can network and have your really terrible information and bad ideas amplified ad nauseum on the same sort of level playing field as actual experts, right? Back then, there were like 3 main news channels, and they would have the experts on, and the experts said, this is a problem, and then the country did something. We don't live there anymore. Like that world is dead. Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry, their ideas are supposed to count just as much as actual people with actual science degrees.
I have a thread of hope that I've been clinging to for a while now, and you've heard me express this before, that each individual human, groups of humans, countries full of humans, world full of humans, we don't change something until it causes enough pain to require change. Like we don't just change things because we feel like it. We generally only change things when things get dire enough that we have to change, big fundamental things. So I just don't know where the pain, I don't know where the pain threshold is with global warming. Like, I don't know what's going to be enough death So that this kind of checks out with what Sam was saying, that he's not seeing evidence that 90,000 dead Americans, a 9/11 a day, is enough to change our behavior to mitigate that number.
And by then, it's too late. It's far, far too late for climate change. Right? Like that. Like the whole like we're not going to do anything until we sort of feel the pressure enough to do it. It'll be 30, 40 years past the time when we could have had a positive effect on the outcome.
Right.
But at the same time, like there are super smart people, and thankfully the rest of the world, because this is really just not only but primarily a United States problem
so far.
Right? Like for the I think like the rest of the industrialized countries aren't getting dumber. So again, so far.
But politically, the worse things get economically, the more right they lean in Europe. If that's what we're talking about, right?
That's true.
They're latching on to far right parties and Nazi ideology. They're a minority so far, but guess what? So were the Nazis at one point. So that's Fred's podcast, and I really want to listen to the rest of it. I took on the COVID conspiracy as politely as I possibly could in my latest episode. I can't change minds by being insulting. There you go. And I agree with Fred about that shutting down the conversation by calling somebody stupid.
But this is the whole point.
There's zero chance of convincing them that.
There is only 0.1% chance that Fred will convince anyone of anything.
But my opinion is we should still be trying. My opinion is we should still be trying.
Why?
Because we're all gonna fucking die if we don't.
Right, but here's the thing: if you do the thing, all I'm saying is, if you keep doing the thing that isn't going to work statistically,
right,
instead of focusing on the things that will work, we're wasting our fucking time. We should be constantly promoting and buying products that are gonna cut. Like that's what I'm saying. Like the idea that we can, as a gestalt, convince enough people, that's now like fundamentally off the table. So spending any time on it, as opposed to highlighting cheaper battery technology, end, right? That's all I'm saying, is that we might be doing everything wrong. So like it might not.
Well, I don't have any power. I don't have any power to change any of those design things that'll be cool and appealing to people. What I do have the power to do is use my voice and my reason to try and show others that there is a way forward that doesn't kill everybody. Like that's all I have.
Yeah. Right. No, I know. But all I'm saying is that you are probably 1,000 times more likely to convince a dummy to buy a cheap battery than to understand climate science.
Right.
Like using your powers for good and effectively. Like we very likely are just literally shitting up a rope, trying to convince anyone of anything.
Yeah. So let's just give up.
That's not what I said. I literally gave us an option. At no point did I say give up.
Bubbleviz, Greg is afraid of climate change but wants to live on Mars. Not afraid of climate change. I don't know, am I afraid? No, I'm convinced that millions of people are going to die from climate change. And that's silly. I should like that idea.
Well, this is the thing, like you want to go to Mars to climate change the fuck out of it. Like, that's really, it's all the same.
Control the climate to make it better for humanity.
That's exactly it. It's the same argument. We want to make the climate sustainable here, and we also want to make the climate better there.
Sustainable on Mars.
That's exact. Greg is in no way inconsistent there.
I don't think so. I bristle at the term afraid. You guys are afraid of a virus. I'm afraid that my mom will die. I'm afraid that my friends with immunocompromised systems will die. I'm afraid that my friend Ed, who just spent 4 days in the hospital for something unrelated, might contract COVID and die. I'm afraid of all my friends who are going through or have gone through chemo are exposed and will die. Am I afraid? I'm not afraid for me, dumb fuckers. I've been sick for 30 fucking years. I have health problems that go back to my mid-30s. I'm not afraid of me getting sick. I'm afraid of other people getting sick. I'm afraid of losing more Americans. Ginny makes a good point. Less than 6,000 Americans died, and we got the Patriot Act.
Yep.
What's the difference?
2 million dead Iraqi.
Suddenness? No, I mean, why did that make us roll over on our backs and throw our legs in the air and say, yeah, fuck us over with the Patriot Act. Why were we okay with that? Something that absolutely drastically negatively affected all of us in the name of safety. But now we're not seeing things that way. Fox News existed then. I know because I watched it.
Well, but here's the thing. Fox News was running that narrative. Like, the difference is the propaganda machine agreed with it then, and the propaganda machine doesn't agree with it now. And like the people that are trained Pavlovian lapdogs to the propaganda machine are literally just parrot. I mean, I know you've seen it. I'm sure everyone here has seen it a million times. Like, nobody has original ideas in that space. They're just mindless parrots, right? Like, literally. So yeah,
Fred, I'm with Fred.
As usual, my pep talks are fucking fantastic.
I'm with Fred. I want to change one mind a little bit. If everyone does that, we might get somewhere. I'm rowing Fred's boat on this one. I think that's all we have. That's all I have.
Right. And all I'm saying is
others who may be able to do more, but that's what I can do.
I shouldn't say definitively. I'm saying maybe we should consider trying to convince people of things that we can convince them of at scale. And climate change probably isn't it. Like, science and experts probably aren't it. And this is like, Rio and I just did a huge arc on this. Like, that, well, we want people to be, we realize the rise of authoritarianism has a lot to do with distrust in government, right? Which has a lot to do with bad government, right? The easiest way to improve trust in government is to have good government, right? It's not rocket science, but it's hard and it takes a long time to actually implement that, right?
Right.
On the backside, like not trusting experts or whatever, like that, you need to, kind of, I think two things on that. Sometimes the experts are going to be wrong. Wall Street 2007, 2008. And and uncertainty is also a thing, right? Well, and then basic scientific competency, right? You should be able to understand why science is the way it is around vaccines, for example, and just how unbelievably ridiculous it is to just throw that entire system out because you don't understand it, right? Anyway,
well, the replace the big cumbersome systems people. I wanted and replace them with what exactly? Like yesterday, Trump decided that he told all his cabinet officials remove any regulations that are hindering us opening up the economy. That's going to have a staggering long-term negative effect.
Absolutely.
I mean, a really
it's
big
a Republican's wet dream.
Yeah.
It everything that we were freaking out about, rightfully, about the destruction of the EPA, it's just going to get ramped up to 1 million. I mean, for all we know, Greg, right now he could be taking whatever's left of Dodd-Frank and throwing it out.
Right
now. Right? Because anything to save the Dow, right? Because it's not even the market. It's not even the whole stock market. As long as the number that comes up on the propaganda machine is good, Trump will do it. And it doesn't matter what it is. Right. And all it has to do is be good up until, November of this year. And then everyone can go fuck themselves. And they'll have to, because that's going to be the only thing left to do.
Right. I want to unpack what Bubba has just posted just a little bit. You need checks and balances and truthful media to get good government. I want to argue that that's provably false, and American history is the lesson plan for this. The media during the time of the men who wrote the Constitution, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and others, was extraordinarily biased and shitty. It was horrible. Like there was no press control on purpose, and it turned into a real shit throwing festival. And yet, if you talk about governing for the most number of citizens, and there's a huge asterisk there because we had already deemed that African Americans were not actually people. The government was effective. In the Civil War, Lincoln was hated by the press, and yet governed successfully and effectively. FDR, before the war, governed extremely effectively, despite the fact that the press had it in for him. So I think there's lots of examples that the media is not the problem. The media is just never the problem. It just isn't. What we believe, our credulity, is the problem. That's the problem. What we believe and how we assess sources of information is the problem. and the media is gonna feed us what we watch. That's
I think that's a thing now that is another thing now that didn't exist back then, right? Like there's a race to the bottom where what affects the human amygdala directly relates to profitability in the media.
right.
Like if it bleeds, it leads. Like I know you guys have all heard that a million times or whatever, but like that's you can relegate that down into politics, but you can also relegate that down into the political divides
Right.
in the cable news networks, because people are just going to gravitate to what they want to hear. Or in our case, we gravitate away from lying horseshit because we can't handle being lied to 24 hours a day.
Right.
That's to each their own though.
Well,
Fred's talking about, like, he's still talking about if you can move somebody a little bit on science as a step down the road to understanding climate change. I spent most of my life agreeing with that. And yesterday, I think I stopped. Because I'm not 100% sure that we live in a world where that scales anymore. And that's terrifying and frightening and disheartening. But also, it's not like there isn't anything that we can do. So what if all of our tactics are wrong? Because, I mean, right now, we are losing. So at what point do you put the shovel down and try something else?
Well, there was a great large segment of the American population that thought Hitler was just fine for a while. And then they changed their minds. Well, I don't think those people were any more equipped to rationally consider what was happening in the world than we are.
Did they change their minds before or after we committed to war?
Before.
Okay. So what changed their minds then was losing how many ships in the Atlantic, right? Again, the pain ramping up was what did it, right?
Right.
So again, I don't think that's an option for us with climate change. Because, even in 10 years when the signs are obvious and we're getting a hurricane every 2 months, well, they're just hurricanes. It'll be the same fucking ridiculous argument. When we lose 100,000 people to climate change, right? When we have our first 100,000 United States casualties to global warming in any 4 months of any year in 10 years or 20 years, no one will care. It'll be the same argument. And by the time we win that argument at scale, like actual breathable oxygen in the atmosphere is going to be a concern, right? So we don't have that luxury, I don't think. And if there is another way, and if that other way is to constantly be talking about the technologies that just on a price parity thing, right? Like we're going to be able to convince people to buy a cheap Tesla a lot sooner than we're going to be able to convince them that climate change is going to kill their grandkids. That's just a fact now.
But I think that's going to make a much smaller change than what we actually need.
Again, if you're trying to do something that is statistically impossible, it doesn't matter. Right? Like, how many people have you convinced about climate change who is part of this cadre? Like, ever? Right. Any? Because I'm at zero. I'm at zero. And watching what's going on with the pandemic, also zero. You're not going to take somebody who is, the pandemic is all made of 5G murder hornets, and then bring them to, well, no, there's a way to open. You just have to do these 5 steps. Right now, our success rate is literally zero. And if I'm wrong, great, right? I'm sure there's an example where I'm wrong. But if that example is I tried 1,000 times and my uncle finally came around, we're fucked. As usual, for real. My pep talks are the best on the internet. And by best, I mean really good, the worst. Terrible.
So I saw something yesterday.
Fred asked what made you stop. I was going to talk about that, but
yeah, do it.
Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
No, what made you stop?
Sam Harris linking the complete inability to convince otherwise intelligent people about basic epidemiology is proof positive that as a culture, we are now incapable of teaching the actual dumber half anything about climate change, even at the point when it's killing 100,000 people every 3 months.
Right.
It's not possible now.
Fred Eater is turning out to be one of the smartest, wisest people that I read. Idealism requires acceptance of losing and doing it anyway.
Right. I would much rather succeed Idealism doesn't
Sure.
save human life.
It keeps the light burning in dark times.
Absolutely. But if you're
I mean, we
digging
just had an
a
example
hole,
during the shutdown.
will soon
Right.
drown you. Right? Put the shovel down. If there's another option, or keep digging until you find one. But when your success rate is zero,
Whoa,
start
you're
looking
breaking up
elsewhere.
bad. You're breaking up like
I am not saying put the shovel down and just fucking lay down and die. Sorry. Beep boop boop. How do I know?
It's a little. I think it's my internet connection. I don't know why it's spiking, but it's weird.
Are we back?
Okay, but we just had an example of, the shutdown.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah, I
on
got
YouTube
you. I
with
can
Rick.
hear you. Your video's paused, but I can hear you. I keep wanting to go back to this
Okay.
because something I saw in the last couple of days said that during the shutdown, when everybody was more or less locked down, we managed to reduce CO2 emissions for that 90 days by like 16%. And the bottom end of the curve at which we can impact global warming and change it is 24%. So even with a full on emergency, we did not reduce our carbon footprint enough to have a time frame for fixing global warming. So it's going to take actually much more drastic action than anything we've ever done. And I just it's an observation. I don't have any point to that.
Every
It's
car
an
has to
observation
be.
of how drastically we need to change things to make a difference.
No, I think you're right.
Electric.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? You can't hear me okay.
It's your.
I think my audio is way behind.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but
Okay.
I can definitely. I don't know. Do we want to try starting again, or do we want to stay with it?
How long after this until you hear it? Yeah, we should probably start again.
I heard that immediately. But okay. All right, guys. Yeah,
So
we're going to start
restarting?
the stream again. Sorry, guys. We're going to do that.